Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. An enormous rose gold vertical eye appeared behind Huo Yuhao's back as 7 soul rings, white, purple, black, rose gold, and red gradually emerged and rose up. A complicated expression flashed across Dai Huabin's eyes when he saw Huo Yuhao's 7 soul rings. He sighed inside. Seems like I will never be able to catch up to him. 7 rings, he's a soul sage now, and he's a soul sage with 100,000-year soul ring. Even though he didn't know what had happened to Huo Yuhao recently, Huo Yuhao's exponential advancement dealt quite a blow to Dai Huabin. Huo Yuhao's eyes shone with clear golden light as he gazed at the tiger. He reached over slowly with his spiritual power, and helped this soul beast condense its spiritual imprint and spiritual power, before he helped adjust and regulate its blood so that it would be prepared for the contract. Huo Yuhao began to guide Dai Huabin only when he was done with the tiger. Something unexpected happened right at this moment. The tiger's dim and lifeless single eye suddenly sparkled with fierce light as its crippled frame forcibly leapt off the ground, and it opened its mouth and bit down at Huo Yuhao. Eye-catching red light shone from its body at the same time. It was triggering its own soul power, and seemed like it was going to self-destruct. It wasn't hard to imagine how powerful a 10,000-year soul beast's self-destruction would be. Furthermore, he was right next to Huo Yuhao, and its intentions were very clear from his behavior. It wanted to hold Huo Yuhao down before it self-destructed, and then they would die together. Unfortunately, he was up against the eye of the Azura. Huo Yuhao had already realized that something was wrong when his blood began to surge inside his body. Huo Yuhao's 7 soul rings switched to 5, and his 4th soul ring glowed as brilliant orange gold light sparkled. Huo Yuhao slapped out with his right hand with lightning speed, and he touched the tiger's body gently before he pressed it down from mid-air, just like that. The red light emanating from the soul beast was extinguished just like that. The tiger seemed like it had been frozen and plunked back on the ground, and it seemed to have been transformed into a statue. It didn't move an inch at all. The Snow Empress 3 Ultimate Techniques, Snowless Glacier. Before, Huo Yuhao had had to expend a lot of soul power, and had to concentrate all his energy to unleash this attack. In this moment, Huo Yuhao used Snowless Glacier easily and casually, and everything seemed as smooth like rolling clouds and flowing water. He wasn't hindered at all. Bastard. He wants to take this chance to kill my kin. The Bear Lord howled furiously as his body instantly enlarged, and he prepared to pounce at Huo Yuhao. Right at this moment, an incredibly dignified voice that was accompanied by terrifying soul power erupted from the beast god. Let me see who dares to move. Di Qian soared into the air as he spoke, and he turned a half round in the sky and arrived in front of the Bear Lord. His eyes were entirely golden as he raised his right hand, and purplish gold flames burned as Di Qian grabbed the Bear Lord's dark golden terraclaw, which he was swinging at Huo Yuhao. The king of the dark golden terraclaw bears possessed almost unrivaled strength, and his claws were razor sharp, but his claws couldn't move a single inch in Di Qian's iron-like grip. The Bear Lord howled, Di Qian, you still want to protect that human at a time like this? He killed our kin. Di Qian stared at him coldly and said, you have challenged me time and time again, Bear Lord. Do you actually think that I don't dare to kill you? Even if you want to challenge me, you should be smarter about it. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. The purplish gold flames on Di Qian's hand became stronger as he spoke. Similar purplish gold flames began burning on his body at the same time, and he pressed the Bear Lord down from the sky just like that. The indignation in the Bear Lord's eyes became fear. He had always been known for his strength, but in this moment, the strength that was coming from Di Qian's single hand was so strong that the Bear Lord couldn't resist him at all. Di Qian raised his other hand, which began to transform as he raised it up. His human hand became a dragon claw, dark as the night. However, that dragon claw looked like oblivion in the Bear Lord's eyes as a trembling fear from deep within his heart surfaced. He could clearly feel that this dragon claw was a frightening existence that could take his life. This was the Dragon King's claw. The group of restless soul beasts all quieted down when Di Qian's pitch-black dragon claw appeared. They laid down on the ground, prostrate, their bodies quivering. Even the emerald swan, the three-headed scarlet devil mastiff, and the demon-eye tree went down on one knee. What was the Dragon King's claw? Legend had it that the black dragons were the dragon god's personal bodyguards. After the dragon god separated into the gold dragon and silver dragon, the black dragons protected his two great avatars, and even the ninth dragon prince didn't dare to offend the black dragons for nothing. The reason for that was because the dragon god had fondly recalled the black dragon's loyalty, and he gave their leader the title of the Dragon King, and also taught the Dragon King's claw to the black dragons. Only the leaders of each generation of black dragons could inherit this supreme innate ability. The Dragon King's claw wasn't that different from other powerful soul skills to humans. However, it was vastly different for soul beasts. The Dragon King's claw carried the dragon god's aura, and only the most powerful soul beast in the world could possess a skill like this. Once the Dragon King's claw was unleashed, every single soul beast that wasn't similarly blessed by a god had to submit. Otherwise, they would perish and disappear into oblivion in the face of the Dragon King's claw. Di Qian had never used his Dragon King's claw before today, not even against the evil-eye tyrant king. But at this moment, he unleashed his Dragon King's claw, which meant that he was representing the dragon god, and he was representing the black dragons who had protected him. Whoever resisted him, without considering the frightening force that the Dragon King's claw had against soul beasts, would be challenging every single soul beast in the world that possessed dragon blood. All soul beasts that had even a thread of dragon blood were proud of that fact. Dragons had once ruled the Doluo continent. There were sky dragons, there were earth dragons, and there were many species who were relatives of the dragon race. Not even the dragon god himself could count how many different species of soul beasts possessed dragon blood. Therefore, not a single soul beast dared to resist the Dragon King's claw. The Bear Lord was scared shitless. He truly felt Di Qian's intense killing intent. Di Qian, no, Di Qian, I was wrong. Forgive me, Di Qian. I promise, I will never challenge your authority again. The Bear Lord wasn't an idiot, after all. He had been alive for several 100,000 years, so what was more important than his life? Di Qian muttered coldly, this isn't the first time. You've gone behind my back in the past, and I've been too lazy to fault you for all those little things. However, today's matter concerns the great Star Do Forest's future, and yet you dare to stir up trouble. Are you really treating me like I don't exist? Di Qian's Dragon King's claw slashed down from the sky as he spoke, and went straight for the Bear Lord's head. Mercy, Di Qian. Bai Ji couldn't help but exclaim. Di Qian's claw was going for the Bear Lord's head, but he slanted his claw and struck the Bear Lord's shoulder instead. The terrifying force of Di Qian's Dragon King's claw was on full display. Back then, the Valkyrie Doluo Xianlina had used her full strength, but had only chopped a few strands of hair from the Bear Lord's forehead with her green flame spear. However, the Bear Lord's frame seemed like it was made from tofu in front of Di Qian's Dragon King's claw, and Di Qian's claw cut into his shoulder just like that. Arg! A shrill and agonizing howl erupted from the Bear Lord's mouth, and his muscular body began to tremble like a pendulum. Di Qian was right in front of the Bear Lord as he stared into his eyes, which were already full of fear. This will be the last time. If there's a next time, I will use your life to wash away my wrath. He swung his left hand as he spoke, and the Bear Lord's enormous frame was sent hurtling through the air like a cannon shell. The Bear Lord crashed through the great Star Do forest, black lightning streaks flickering on his body, as if they were about to tear his body apart completely, as he flew through the sky. The Bear Lord continued to howl painfully as tough dark golden hair scattered in all directions in the air, and horrifying gashes appeared one after another on his body. The entire place was deathly quiet. Who would have thought that the beast god, Di Qian, would lash out against the great Star Do forest's second strongest individual himself? Furthermore, he did so with such brutal force. Di Qian's Dragon King's claw was so mighty that he suppressed the Bear Lord to the point that the Bear Lord couldn't resist at all. Bai Ji, the Myriad Demon King, and the Scarlet King, along with all the soul beasts on scene, were all prostrate on the ground. Nobody dared to move a muscle. Di Qian turned around. His expression was ice-cold as he said plainly, "If anyone dares to go against my words, I will make his spirit burn in hell forever." The soul beasts didn't dare to make a sound. They were just lying there on the ground, quivering, and certain soul beasts, who had relatively weaker minds, even began to lose their bowels. On the other side in the human camp, Elder Xian and Dubuzi wore solemn expressions. Dragon King's Claw. Di Qian possessed the Black Dragon's strongest esoteric ability. They weren't sure what would have happened if Di Qian had hysterically unleashed his full strength that day. Elder Xian couldn't help but admire Elder Mu even more. If Elder Mu hadn't used the Golden Tree's strength to trigger the Taotie's powers in his body and forcefully imprison Di Qian, Shrek City would probably have been crushed to a pulp by the beast wave. Di Qian was a lot stronger than they had imagined. Huo Yuhao saw everything Di Qian did. He was now comparing the beast god with other powerful individuals he had met before, and he realized that besides that teacher of his who came from another world, the Calamity Necromancer Electrolux, nobody was as powerful as the beast god. Not even the Darkness Holy Dragon could compare to Di Qian. If Elder Mu was still alive and at his peak condition, he would probably only have a chance against the beast god if he teamed up with the Darkness Holy Dragon. Huo Yuhao was sure that Di Qian wasn't a demigod like Electrolux. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to worry about the dangers of his next metamorphosis. Demigods possessed abilities that transcended this world. Of course, Huo Yuhao couldn't tell what that level was like right now. What happened wasn't your fault. Continue. You can choose any soul beast you want to cooperate with your experiment. Di Qian turned to Huo Yuhao and spoke plainly, jolting Huo Yuhao awake from his fearful thoughts. Huo Yuhao nodded and glanced at Dai Huabin beside him. Dai Huabin's reaction was drastically different from his. At this moment, the half-brother with whom he shared a father only had excitement in his eyes. Dai Huabin stared at Di Qian, as if he were gazing upon his idol, a pure worship of strength. Thank you for your trust. Huo Yuhao bowed towards Di Qian, before he walked towards the soul beasts, who were representing the Great Star Doe Forest for the experiments. Di Qian had heavily injured the Bear Lord, and was also telling Huo Yuhao through his actions how important these experiments were, and how much emphasis he placed on them. Huo Yuhao didn't know what the beast god would do if his experiments failed. There were many powerful individuals in the human camp, but from the strength that Di Qian had just displayed, he didn't even consider these humans a challenge to him. Huo Yuhao didn't take long to choose a soul beast. He picked another tiger, but he didn't pick from those who were injured. Instead, he picked from the group whose lives were almost at an end due to old age. This tiger was another 10,000-year soul beast, and from its appearance, it had about 20,000 years of cultivation. With Dai Huabin's talent, this tiger was very appropriate for his 6th soul ring. Huo Yuhao brought this soul beast, whose movements were already a little sluggish, in front of Dai Huabin. This soul beast was a black tiger. Its entire body was pitch black, and there was a white king etched onto its forehead. It was 5 meters long, and even though it was old and infirm, one could see its power when it was in its prime. Its skeleton was large, and its forepaws were especially thick and wide. The large-palmed black tiger was a ferocious soul beast that was adept in melee. Tigers were typically highly regarded within the forest, but very few tigers could go further after reaching 100,000 years. It was because tigers were innately domineering and overbearing, and after breaking through 100,000 years, they were likely to threaten the ruler's sovereignty. Di Qian didn't have to make a move. The Bear Lord and the Myriad Demon King wouldn't allow any tiger to break through 200,000 years. Huo Yuhao said to this large-palmed black tiger, "I can sense that your life energy is about to be exhausted. If you complete your fusion with him, you will exist in another form. You will still be a king, and you can still accompany him into battle, and you will still be able to use your powers as a king. Are you willing to try?" This large-palmed black tiger's life had several months more to it, at most. The truth was that it had almost died at the hands of other soul beasts before it came forward today, and Bai Ji's kindness had saved it. Huo Yuhao chose soul beasts who were old and infirm because they hadn't participated in the beast wave, which meant they didn't harbor that much hatred against Shrek City's soul masters. The tiger nodded slowly. Whether it was because of Tian's forceful intimidation, or because it wanted to prolong its life, this tiger had no reason to object. Huo Yuhao continued, "That's good. In a moment, I will begin guiding your spiritual imprint to condense. You have to relax and cooperate with me so that I can fuse your innate abilities with your spiritual imprint. You have to do everything willingly, and only after that can I help you complete the contract." The large-palmed black tiger growled, and its spiritual undulations became a little excited. However, it was still relatively calm. Huo Yuhao turned to Dai Huabin and said, "Same goes for you. You have to accept this tiger from the bottom of your heart. The fusion after this will be a little painful, so you'll have to hang on. Come." Dai Huabin had always been one of Shrek Academy's individuals who craved strength the most, and even though his tolerance for pain and suffering wasn't as good as Huo Yuhao, he wasn't that far off due to this desire to strengthen himself. Huo Yuhao reassured both parties before he stared at the large-palmed black tiger, and the Eye of Destiny slowly opened on his forehead. He had to use his full strength so that he could ensure success. Spiritual power that wasn't very intense, but gave others a sticky feeling, surged out from Huo Yuhao and encompassed both Dai Huabin and the tiger. Huo Yuhao's soul rings, that had transcended ordinary circumstances, rose from beneath his feet and attracted the attention of every single human and soul beast there. A gentle golden light burst out from Huo Yuhao's rose gold Eye of Destiny and landed on the tiger's forehead. The tiger quivered once before it just lay there. The tiger's current physical situation meant there was no way it could release a burst of energy or use too much strength, but it was best at relaxing. Huo Yuhao's formidable spiritual power wasn't something it could fight against. His spiritual power went straight and smoothly, and Huo Yuhao quickly found its spiritual imprint and spiritual origin. Huo Yuhao wasn't hasty, gradually releasing amiable will as he guided the tiger to control its own spiritual power at the same time. A faint golden layer of light began to emerge from the tiger's body. Under Huo Yuhao's guidance, its spiritual origin, its spiritual imprint, and part of its purest soul power began to gather with the mysterious power contained within its innate bloodline. This was a very long process. In the end, he was working on a soul beast that had more than 20,000 years of cultivation. Furthermore, this was the first time that Huo Yuhao was carrying out a material experiment. He didn't dare to be careless at all, and he did everything meticulously. Nobody knew more about spirits than Huo Yuhao. Following the improvement of his spiritual power, Huo Yuhao gained an increasingly deeper understanding of the magic that Electrolux had left behind for him. Juxtaposed with the changes in his martial soul, his ability to control his spiritual power became stronger every time he underwent closed-door cultivation. Both parties watched Huo Yuhao's actions nervously, and not a single human or soul beast dared to make a sound. They knew that if Huo Yuhao succeeded, he would make history on the Doluo continent. He would have invented a formidable ability that could be popularized besides soul rings and soul bones. 15 minutes later, the golden light on the tiger's body became stronger, and everyone could see that golden light had begun to surge from its tail. Its body began to decay and darken wherever this golden light passed. Its tail's fur lost its shine first, and its hind legs went next. The golden light, that was slowly shifting forward, became increasingly brilliant. Finally, all that golden light concentrated on the tiger's head, and had become so intense that nobody could see its body anymore. Huo Yuhao raised his left hand as the golden light condensed into a staff that appeared in his grip, and deep and drawn-out incantations could be heard. Those incantations were very bright and clear, but nobody could understand what he was saying. The unfamiliar voice seemed to cause heaven and earth to tremble along with it. A golden hexagon began to take shape on the ground. This hexagon encompassed Huo Yuhao, Dai Huabin, and the large-palmed black tiger. Huo Yuhao's body slowly drifted into the air. The Eye of the Azura appeared behind his back as a vertical eye. His chanting became sharper and higher in pitch as his seventh soul ring glowed, and the vertical eye behind him burst with light, as that light swallowed him entirely, and he transformed into the Eye of the Azura. Rose gold sun patterns lit up several hundred meters around him, and intense spiritual undulations caused even the expressions of the beast god, the Daotai Dolor Elder Xian, and the Body Dolor Du Busy to change. Rose gold streaks of light flickered one after another as Dai Huabin and the large-palmed black tiger were pulled closer to one another. A beam descended on Dai Huabin's head, and another pulled on the tiger. Under the effects of Huo Yuhao's chants, they were finally pulled to within 1 foot of one another. Huo Yuhao's will guided Dai Huabin, and Dai Huabin slowly raised his right hand and pressed it against the large-palmed black tiger's forehead. Dai Huabin began to chant something, as the tiger also began to make sounds that sounded like whimpering. The hexagon beneath them became brighter and brighter as strange glyphs rose up one after another. These glyphs circled around their bodies as gentle spiritual and soul power undulations orbited them at the same time. Di Qian, Elder Xian, and the others who had seen many things and were very knowledgeable could clearly feel the peculiar transformations that were happening between Dai Huabin and that large-palmed black tiger. The process was similar to absorbing soul rings. Dai Huabin was actually absorbing something from the tiger, while the tiger's life energy was continuously slipping away. However, its body was integrating into Dai Huabin's body, creating something that wasn't a soul ring. Both the humans, the soul beasts, could tell at this point that Huo Yuhao's research into spirits had its reason and rationality. Even though the process wasn't yet complete, they knew that Huo Yuhao's claims weren't empty. The eye of the Azura slowly rose into the sky and retreated as Huo Yuhao returned to human form and ended his martial soul true body. Huo Yuhao had already helped Dai Huabin and the tiger complete the necessary incantations. Now, he would have to wait and see if they could complete their fusion. Huo Yuhao took a deep breath and watched everything that was happening in the hexagon nervously. This was an equal contract, so approval from both parties for each other was more important than anything else. If either had any objections during this approval process, the ceremony would fail. At this moment, the benefit of Huo Yuhao choosing this old and infirm large-palmed black tiger began to show. The tiger was aging, and if it didn't approve Dai Huabin and couldn't become his spirit, then the tiger would die for sure. These circumstances discreetly raised the tiger's sincerity exponentially. Huo Yuhao couldn't guess Dai Huabin's mentality at this moment, so he could only resign things to fate. Seconds and minutes passed as the light inside the hexagon became increasingly strong, while the glyphs became increasingly numerous. Suddenly, all the glyphs paused in mid-air, as the large-palmed black tiger's enormous frame slanted and collapsed inside the hexagon. It had lost every last bit of its life energy. The soul beasts that were prostrate on the ground, especially those who were about to be experimented on, all stood up in unison and stared at Dai Huabin. Fear and anger began to surface in their eyes. However, at the very next moment, all of the symbols surged toward Dai Huabin like rivers emptying into an ocean. A black soul ring almost twice as big as a normal soul ring rose from underneath his feet. As it rose, his original 5 soul rings also became much darker. Rare. A ferocious tiger's roar rang out from Dai Huabin's mouth. Rare. Then, another excited tiger roar was heard. Dai Huabin's new black soul ring glowed brightly. His entire body became illusory, and with that, a ray of black emerged from his chest and landed in front of him. 4 huge tiger paws landed on the ground. Wasn't that shadow that large-palmed black tiger? However, it was no longer near the end of its life. Instead, its body had become much stronger. Furthermore, its fur now glowed with a faint, golden light. Streaks of white tiger stripes appeared on its back, and the king's symbol on its forehead was much larger. While its body looked illusory and incorporeal, it was otherwise indistinguishable from before. Rare. It roared excitedly once more. The large-palmed black tiger turned around, stood up, and placed its front paws on Dai Huabin's shoulders. Dai Huabin laughed. It worked. As he said that, he grabbed the front 2 paws of the large-palmed black tiger and lifted it up strongly. Its paws landed on his back, and then both human and tiger paused. After Dai Huabin unleashed his white tiger, the fur between its black and white stripes turned black. He slapped forward with his right hand, and in mid-air, a huge black tiger paw appeared. It smashed down onto the ground, creating a crater a few meters deep in the shape of a tiger's paw. The large-palmed black tiger behind him lowered its head and charged Dai Huabin, and it was synchronized perfectly. He leaped into the air and landed firmly on his back. The forelimbs of the large-palmed black tiger brimmed with strength as it jumped up and down in the plains between the humans and the soul beasts. It was incredibly fast, and Dai Huabin laughed excitedly. Spirit, it really is a spirit. After a momentary calm, the soul masters burst into discussion as excited voices rang out everywhere. The same thing happened on the soul beast side. Instead of chattering, the many different types of soul beasts roared and grunted. The chill in Di Qian's eyes disappeared, replaced with an unusual excitement. It had worked. The equal contract between Dai Huabin and this large-palmed black tiger was successful. The large-palmed black tiger was now his replacement for his sixth soul ring. Both humans and soul beasts could see the massive advantage a spirit had over a soul ring. First of all, a spirit could provide a soul skill, just like a soul ring. Just now, Dai Huabin's black tiger spirit palm was able to demonstrate the strength of a soul skill. Furthermore, a spirit had consciousness. Right now, it carried Dai Huabin on its back and served as his steed. How majestic was that? Furthermore, this large-palmed black tiger could evidently fight as well. This was way superior to merely possessing a soul ring. Wait a moment. I want to do an experiment, Huo Yuhao said, as he sent spiritual intent out to Dai Huabin, who had already ridden away. Instantly, the large-palmed black tiger turned around and returned to Huo Yuhao. The large-palmed black tiger lowered its body, and Dai Huabin slid off it and stood in front of Huo Yuhao. Right now, his face was brimming with excitement. He had dared to take part in this experiment not because he trusted Huo Yuhao, but because he didn't want to forego any opportunity that could strengthen him. The first person to do anything would face risks, but Dai Huabin was smart. As the first person in line, Huo Yuhao would do his best to make sure that it went smoothly. Obviously, he was proven right. This spirit, a large-palmed black tiger, was much better than he had expected. Huo Yuhao turned to look at the soul beasts and said, "Elder Di Qian, please come forward." Then, he looked at the human side and invited Elder Xian forward as well. They were the representatives from the two sides. Di Qian and Elder Xian's bodies shone, and in the next instant, they were standing next to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao said to Di Qian, "Elder Di Qian, please verify that this large-palmed black tiger has retained its original consciousness." The body, or carcass, of this large-palmed black tiger still lay there. Next to Dai Huabin stood its spirit. Di Qian nodded as he looked at the large-palmed black tiger. With just one action, this 20,000-year large-palmed black tiger was able to demonstrate that it had retained its original consciousness to the beast god. It crouched on the ground and it straightened its tail into the air, like a pug wagging its tail to endear itself to the beast god. A deep growl emerged from the mouth of this large-palmed black tiger. Huo Yuhao did not know what it said, but from its spiritual fluctuations, he could guess that it was talking to the beast god. Di Qian listened for a while before nodding. Then, he lifted his right hand and placed it on Dai Huabin's shoulder. Dai Huabin's body trembled for a bit as he tried to resist, but how could he defy the powerful beast god? Elder Xian and Huo Yuhao did not intervene to stop Di Qian from placing his hand on Dai Huabin's shoulder. Di Qian closed his eyes and sensed quietly. Dai Huabin felt his body going as still as a statue. There was no way for him to move. The large-palmed black tiger next to him looked at him occasionally. Its excitement turned into fear, an innate fear of the beast god. Elder Xian looked at Huo Yuhao inquisitively, but Huo Yuhao just smiled and nodded at him. The moment the ceremony was completed, he was confident that it had succeeded. Di Qian did not probe for too long. He retracted his right hand, and the beast god opened his eyes once more. He looked at Huo Yuhao, and his severe expression softened. He nodded at Yuhao and said, "You have made history." These 4 simple words made Huo Yuhao feel as if a huge burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He replied to Di Qian, "I'm just glad that I didn't let you down." Di Qian nodded and said, "Continue, let's see what its success rate is like." Huo Yuhao nodded earnestly. The success of a single experiment did not mean anything. If its success rate was only 10%, then no matter how good a spirit was, it would not be very effective. There would be no way for him to introduce it to the masses. Huo Yuhao turned to Dai Huobin and said, "Please go back." Dai Huobin looked deep in his eyes and said, "Thank you, I owe you one." With that, he leapt into the air, and his large-palmed black tiger did the same, catching him in mid-air. Together, they turned into a bolt of black lightning as they quickly dashed back to the human side. Dai Huobin was not the only excited one. This large-palmed black tiger was just as excited. It had reached the end of its life, but it managed to live again using another method. Furthermore, it was at the peak of its strength. While its life was interconnected with Dai Huobin's, this fate was much better than death. By tying its fate with Dai Huobin, it could even experience the wonders of the human world. Dai Huobin's success made both humans and soul beasts excited about the experiment. Even the soul beasts that were severely injured felt their hatred for humans decrease. After all, who did not want to live? One's survival instinct was always stronger than the desire for revenge. However, Huo Yuhao still did not choose an injured soul beast for his second experiment. Instead, he chose another old soul beast. From the humans, he chose an outer courtyard student of Shrek Academy again, whose soul power had just reached rank 30. This fusion was exceptionally successful. This time, the entire contract ceremony took less than 2 hours to complete. A thick purple soul ring and a purple jade falcon became the student spirit. While a purple jade falcon could not be ridden like a large-palmed black tiger, the two of them shared a mental bond, which made the student jump around excitedly. The crowd was ignited by the two successes. The first thing to change was the emotions of the soul beasts. Their intense enmity dropped visibly, and the soul beasts, which were in line now, showed signs of anticipation. Huo Yuhao did not stop. He conducted experiments, one after another. His initial successes created a good foundation for his later trials. Not only did it make him more experienced, but he also earned the trust of both humans and soul beasts. As the two sides formed their contracts, it was less likely for any problems to occur. However, not all contracts were successful. Among the soul beasts, some of them still tried to resist the humans. After 20 rounds of experimentation, Huo Yuhao failed twice. One of the soul beasts died, as its body was too weak. However, this did not affect the overall results of the spirit experimentation. A success rate of 90% answered many questions. Huo Yuhao's vast spiritual power prevented fatigue from setting in. He continued his experimentations from dawn until night. In between, he rested twice. When night fell, all 100 experiments were completed. Among them, 86 pairs were able to form their contracts successfully. Among the 14 pairs that failed, 6 soul beasts died because they were too weak. The other soul beasts, which lived, were in pretty bad shape, too. Huo Yuhao did not end the experiment just like this. He helped the remaining 8 soul beasts that survived form contracts again. This time, 5 succeeded and 3 died. In the end, the success rate stood at 91%. 91 soul masters from Shrek Academy and the original 3 countries of the Doluo continent now possessed their own spirits. The experiment could be considered a success, and the results were better than expected. The soul masters with spirits all released their spirits to interact with them and deepen their bond. As the others looked at how excited they were, they could not help but admire them. This video will end here.